Amid the devastation of World War II, the mother, a woman gripped by fear and uncertainty, finds herself trapped in an environment where the line between life and death is constantly shifting. The shadows of war stretch across her once peaceful home, now reduced to a mere remnant of what it had once been. The air is thick with tension, filled with the muffled sounds of distant bombings, the rumbling of tanks, and the eerie silence that falls when soldiers march through the streets. The daily routine has been replaced by a quiet desperation, a survivalist instinct that governs every decision. Her world has been turned upside down, as has the world around her, with the invading forces of Nazi soldiers pressing ever closer, controlling every aspect of her existence. She no longer has the luxury of focusing on normal concerns. Her thoughts are entirely preoccupied with one thing: her child. The mother's first instinct, driven by primal fear, is to protect her child at all costs. Every creak of the floorboards, every knock at the door fills her with a sense of dread. What was once a home filled with laughter and warmth has now become a place of secrecy and tension. The child, still too young to fully understand the chaos around them, looks to their mother for reassurance, unaware of the looming danger that lurks just outside. Yet the mother knows the truth: the enemy is everywhere. The enemy, in her mind, is a faceless force of destruction, bent on annihilation, and there is no safety from their wrath. With each passing day, she is filled with a growing sense of helplessness, knowing that their survival is becoming increasingly fragile. The fragile hope she clings to is the belief that she can protect her child, shield them from the horrors of this war, no matter what it takes. In a moment of brutal clarity, she makes a decision that will shape the rest of their lives. She must hide the child. It is not an easy decision. Every instinct within her rebels against it. She wants to hold the child close, to offer them the comfort of her embrace, to let them know everything will be okay. But the reality of war has crushed that illusion. The enemy shows no mercy. They have come for everyone, and no one is safe. The child, with their innocence, represents everything that she is trying desperately to protect. She can no longer afford to simply live in the hope that they will be untouched by the violence unfolding around them. This is no longer about surviving in the same way they had before. This is about keeping the child alive, even if it means making unimaginable sacrifices. She finds a small hidden space, an unused corner of their home, a small cupboard in the back of the kitchen, a dark, airless closet under the stairs, any place where the child can remain unseen. The room is far from ideal, small and cold, with no room for comfort or warmth. But it will have to do. The child protests at first, sensing the tension in the air, the fear in their mother's voice. But she reassures them with a gentle hand, whispering promises of safety even as the uncertainty presses down on her like a weight she cannot lift. She tells the child to remain quiet, not to make a sound, for fear that any noise might alert the enemy to their presence. In that moment, she becomes something more than a mother. She is a protector, a figure whose very soul is consumed with the singular purpose of survival. The hiding place is now their refuge, a grim sanctuary from the outside world. The child is tucked away, hidden from sight, their fate dependent on the fragile hope that no one will find them. Time takes on a different meaning in the darkness of this confined space. Hours feel like days, and each moment that passes without incident is a gift, a fleeting victory over the overwhelming odds stacked against them. Yet even as the mother watches over her child, she is aware of the price she is paying. The act of hiding the child has stripped away any semblance of normalcy. Her life has become defined by fear, fear of discovery, fear of the enemy, fear that any misstep could cost them everything. Her anxiety is unrelenting. She checks the windows obsessively, watching for any movement outside, praying for the streets to remain empty. But as the days stretch on, the strain of hiding becomes unbearable. The sounds of marching soldiers, the metallic clanging of their boots on cobblestone streets, are a constant reminder that safety is never guaranteed. Every creak of the floorboards, every gust of wind, every distant sound, sends a chill through her spine. The enemy could be just outside the door, listening, waiting for the slightest indication that there is someone to be found. Every day is an exercise in tension, in waiting for something, anything, to happen. The mother's fear reaches its peak when the sound of boots stomping through the streets grows louder. A patrol of soldiers is passing through the area, their voices audible in the distance. Her heart races, her breath quickens, and she feels the weight of the moment bear down on her with suffocating intensity. She stands frozen, torn between the urge to protect her child and the instinct to flee, to run, to hide. But where could they go? Where could they find sanctuary in a world consumed by violence? The cupboard is their only option, their last line of defense against a world that no longer makes sense. In that moment, the mother is consumed by the realization that she is not merely trying to save a life, she is fighting for survival itself, a desperate struggle against the overwhelming tide of destruction that threatens to swallow everything she holds dear. As the soldiers draw closer, she holds her breath, praying that they will pass by without noticing the small, hidden space where her child is huddled in the dark. The minutes stretch into eternity, and she feels every beat of her heart like a thunderous drum in her chest. Her thoughts race. What will happen if they are discovered? Will they be taken away? Will they be killed? The questions swirl in her mind, each one more terrifying than the last. Yet through it all, she remains focused on one thing: keeping the child safe. Every fiber of her being is dedicated to this single goal. Her mind, once filled with the dreams and hopes of a mother, is now consumed by a singular, primal instinct: survival. In the depths of war, with death all around her, it is this instinct that drives her to act, to keep fighting, to keep protecting her child, no matter the cost. The world outside continues to unfold in its brutal, unforgiving way. The war presses on, indifferent to the suffering of civilians, to the anguish of parents who are forced to make impossible choices. But inside this small, hidden corner of the world, the mother clings to her child, her heart filled with a complex cocktail of fear, love, and hope. She cannot know what tomorrow will bring, whether they will survive, whether the war will claim them like so many others. But in that moment, she is determined to keep fighting, to hold onto whatever semblance of hope she has left. In the face of destruction and despair, her only wish is that, somehow, they will make it through. As the days drag on, the mother's life becomes a tightrope walk of survival. The child, still tucked away in the hidden space, remains oblivious to the full extent of the dangers surrounding them. They are too young to understand the weight of their mother's actions, too innocent to comprehend the brutal realities of the war. To them, their small world is confined to the dark, quiet place where they are forced to remain, alone, isolated, and in a strange, uncomfortable silence. The world outside, the vibrant world of childhood, has been stripped away, replaced with an overwhelming sense of confinement. But as much as the child longs to return to normalcy, the mother knows they can never go back. There is no returning to innocence now, no returning to the days before the war, when life was simple and filled with possibility. The mother's heart aches with the knowledge that her child's world has been irrevocably altered. The weight of her decision begins to sink in as she watches the days unfold with agonizing slowness. The tension in her chest never subsides. It is always there, lurking just beneath the surface, ready to tighten and squeeze at any moment. The burden of secrecy is immense, more oppressive than she had imagined. Every interaction with the outside world, every sound that breaks the quiet of the house, becomes an event of monumental importance. Her every movement is calculated, every word carefully chosen. She cannot afford to slip, to make a single mistake. The enemy could be anywhere, listening, watching, waiting for any hint of rebellion, any sign of resistance. In the chaos of war, there are no second chances, and she knows that all it would take is one wrong step, one moment of carelessness, and everything would unravel. The mother is no longer just a parent trying to protect her child. She has become a prisoner in her own home, a woman caught in a never-ending struggle between the instinct to protect and the suffocating reality of war. Her thoughts are consumed by the child's safety, and the weight of this responsibility crushes her. At times, she finds herself thinking back to the days before the war, when the biggest concerns in her life were simple, everyday matters: shopping for food, chatting with neighbors, watching her child grow. Those days feel like a distant memory now, a fleeting moment in time that seems so far removed from the present horrors. The world she once knew has been consumed by destruction, and she is left holding on to the fragile hope that somehow, against all odds, she can keep her child safe. But with each passing day, the fear begins to change her. It seeps into every corner of her mind, twisting her thoughts, distorting her reality. She begins to see danger in every shadow, every passing figure in the street. The simplest actions, opening a door, stepping outside, are fraught with risk. The enemy, once an abstract concept, is now an ever-present force that haunts her every moment. She hears whispers in the night, imagined footsteps outside the door, and for a fleeting moment, the lines between reality and fear blur. The mental toll of living in constant fear is immense. It gnaws at her, wears her down, and makes every day feel like an eternity. As the weeks stretch on, the mother becomes more withdrawn, more isolated from the world around her. Her neighbors, once friendly faces, have become mere silhouettes in the background of her life. She no longer interacts with anyone, no longer speaks to the familiar faces on the street. Every conversation feels like a potential threat, every exchange an opportunity for someone to betray her. Even the simplest act of shopping for food becomes a nerve-wracking endeavor. The mother learns to move quickly, to speak little, to keep her head down. She avoids eye contact, keeps her distance from others, and does her best to blend in with the surroundings. But despite her efforts, the fear remains, a constant companion that she cannot shake. During these long, silent hours, the mother often wonders if her decision to hide the child was the right one. She questions herself, doubts her actions, and wonders if she is doing enough to protect her. Would it have been safer to leave, to try to escape the country? Could she have found a way to hide somewhere else, away from the war, away from the enemy? But the thought of leaving, of taking the child and running, fills her with a deep sense of dread. There is no safe place. The war is everywhere, and there are no guarantees of survival. No matter where they go, the fear of discovery, of being found, would follow them. Hiding was their only option, even though it meant living in a constant state of fear. As the days stretch into weeks, the mother's body begins to wear the marks of her mental and emotional exhaustion. Her once vibrant face has grown pale and gaunt, her eyes hollow from lack of sleep. The weight of her responsibilities has bent her, worn her down to the bone. She finds it difficult to focus, to think clearly, her mind constantly clouded by the anxiety that never seems to leave her. The constant vigilance required to keep her child hidden takes its toll, and her physical and mental health begin to deteriorate. She often feels lightheaded, disoriented, as though the walls are closing in on her from all sides. And yet, through it all, her love for her child remains unshaken, a beacon of light in the darkness. It is this love that drives her forward, keeps her moving even when every part of her body screams for rest. The mother is becoming increasingly isolated from everything she once knew. The world outside has become an alien place, one she no longer understands or feels connected to. She no longer hears the sounds of laughter, of children playing in the streets, of people going about their lives. Instead, all she hears is the distant hum of war, the sound of planes flying overhead, the explosions that rattle the windows. The once familiar rhythm of daily life has been replaced by a new, oppressive reality, one where every day is a struggle to survive. She has become numb to the world, existing in a state of heightened awareness, always on edge, always alert. The war has consumed her, reshaped her world, and left her with only one mission: to keep her child safe. The rest of the world no longer matters. As time continues to slip by, the mother begins to notice subtle changes in the child. The long hours spent hidden in the small space have taken their toll on the young one, who has grown restless, uneasy. The silence that once felt like a shield now feels stifling, suffocating. The child asks questions the mother cannot answer. Why can't they go outside? Why can't they play with other children? Why do they have to stay hidden all the time? The mother struggles to provide comforting answers, unable to explain the harsh realities of the world beyond. She can only tell them that they must remain quiet, that they must stay hidden for a little while longer. The child, though young, can sense the change in their mother. They can sense the fear, the strain, the burden that weighs her down. but they don't fully understand, can't fully comprehend the depth of the danger that lurks just outside the door. In the quiet isolation of her hidden existence, the mother clings to the hope that this, too, shall pass. But deep down, she knows that the world they once knew is gone forever. The world outside is no longer a place of safety, of comfort, of peace. It is a place of violence, of destruction, of terror. The mother's thoughts become increasingly consumed by one central idea: survival. Everything she does, every decision she makes, is aimed at keeping the child alive. It is a fragile hope, a hope that she cannot afford to lose. For as long as there is life, there is the possibility of something better, something beyond the horrors of the present. And so she continues, each day, each hour, each minute, doing whatever she can to protect the child, to shield them from the ravages of war. The weight of the responsibility is immense, but it is a weight she bears willingly. For this child, she would endure anything. The days of silence continue to stretch on, thick and heavy with the weight of uncertainty. The mother's fears have become deeply embedded in her routine, each moment spent in the shadows a constant reminder that safety is an illusion. Every creak of the floorboards, every sound of footsteps outside her door, causes her heart to race. She is always listening, always alert, always waiting for the worst to come. The child, though still too young to understand the full weight of their situation, can sense the tension in the air. Their once playful nature has dimmed, and the walls of their tiny world have closed in around them. The child, confined to this small, dark space, begins to wither under the strain of isolation. The mother can see the toll it is taking, the longing in the child's eyes for something outside the cramped, silent world they've been thrust into. Yet the mother continues to hold onto the fragile hope that they will make it through. Each day, she reassures herself that they can survive, that they must survive, but the strain is starting to show. She begins to question herself more and more. Was this the right choice? Could she have done something differently? Could she have hidden the child in a safer place, somewhere further away from the immediate dangers of the war? These questions gnaw at her, and the uncertainty continues to build, layer upon layer, until it becomes almost unbearable. The guilt weighs heavily on her, guilt that she is not doing enough, that she is not offering her child the safety and security that every mother desires. She feels she has failed them by subjecting them to this prolonged existence of fear and uncertainty. Every time the child looks up at her with eyes filled with confusion and sadness, she is reminded of her perceived inadequacy. And yet, there are moments, small, fleeting moments, when the mother allows herself to imagine a different life. A life where they could walk freely in the streets without fear, where her child could run and play without being confined to this hidden, suffocating space. These moments of longing come in the quietest of times, when the world outside is still, when the distant sounds of war have softened, and the house seems almost peaceful. In these brief interludes, the mother allows herself to dream of what might have been, of the life she once took for granted. But these moments are fleeting, and the harsh reality soon returns, crashing down on her like a wave. She knows the truth: this life is gone. There is no going back. The war has torn apart everything that once seemed solid, and there is no escaping its reach. The only thing left is survival, and every choice she makes now must be for the purpose of ensuring that her child has a chance to survive this hellish new world. The routine remains the same, monotonous and filled with the ever-present hum of anxiety. The mother has become a master of silence, moving through the house with the utmost care, always mindful of the noise she makes. She has become increasingly adept at hiding her emotions, at wearing a mask of calm while her insides churn with fear. She never lets her guard down, never allows herself to slip, because she knows that a single misstep could cost them everything. Her focus remains razor-sharp, always on the child, always on ensuring that the child remains safe and hidden. But even in this seemingly controlled environment, the cracks are beginning to show. The constant tension, the ever-present anxiety, is starting to take its toll on the mother. Her once vibrant eyes have dulled, her face is pale, and she feels as though she is carrying a weight too heavy to bear. She has learned to push these feelings aside, to bury them deep inside, but they are there, always lurking beneath the surface, threatening to break free. Then one day, as the mother is performing her usual routine, something changes. It happens so subtly at first that she almost doesn't notice it. A sound, something out of place, reaches her ears. The noise is faint, but it is enough to catch her attention. She pauses, her breath catching in her throat. She listens intently, trying to identify the source of the noise. It sounds like footsteps, distant but growing louder. Her heart skips a beat, and she feels a chill run down her spine. Could it be soldiers? Has their hiding place been discovered? Panic surges within her, and she instinctively rushes to check on the child, her movements frantic and full of fear. She checks the cupboard, the small, cramped space where the child is hiding, making sure that everything is in order. The child is still there, silent and wide-eyed, as though they, too, can sense the impending danger. The footsteps grow louder, and the mother's mind races, torn between the instinct to protect and the overwhelming fear that they have been discovered. She stands frozen, barely daring to breathe, her body tense with anticipation. Her thoughts are a blur. She knows that if they are discovered, it could mean the end. The enemy has no mercy, and there is no telling what fate awaits them. She could hear the soldiers' voices now, muffled but unmistakable. The mother feels a cold sweat break out on her brow, her chest tightening as she listens. Her mind flashes to the worst-case scenarios, imagining the horrors they might face if they are found. She grips the edges of the cupboard, fighting the urge to break down. But then, just as suddenly as the sound appeared, it stops. The footsteps fade, and the voices quiet down. The mother stands in the stillness, her heart racing, her body trembling with the aftermath of the moment. She listens, but there is nothing more. No more footsteps, no more voices. Just silence. It takes her a long moment to steady herself, to calm the frantic beating of her heart. She holds her breath, straining to listen for any sign of movement. But all is quiet now. The footsteps are gone. She waits for what feels like an eternity, her eyes never leaving the door, her senses heightened to the smallest sound. Finally, she exhales, the tension leaving her body in a slow, measured breath. It was a false alarm. But in that moment, the fear she felt was all-consuming. It was as if she had stared death in the face and come out unscathed, but only by the narrowest of margins. The danger, the constant threat, was never far away. The enemy could be lurking just around the corner, and the slightest misstep could lead to disaster. But this time, they had survived. The mother takes a moment to gather her thoughts, to remind herself that they are still safe, that they are still hidden. For now, they are untouched by the violence that has consumed the world around them. The child, still oblivious to the full extent of the danger, looks up at her, seeking reassurance. She smiles, her heart heavy with the knowledge that she cannot protect them forever. The war rages on, and there is no end in sight. She cannot allow herself to relax, to let down her guard. Every moment is a battle, a fight for survival. And yet she knows that as long as they are together, there is still a chance, a fragile, fleeting chance, that they might make it through this nightmare alive. The days continue to drag on, each one blending into the next, a haze of exhaustion and fear. The mother has become accustomed to the rhythm of survival. She wakes each morning, her mind instantly aware of the fragile peace that exists within the walls of their hidden sanctuary. The child, still locked in the dim world of silence and confinement, grows more restless. The weight of the endless hours of waiting, of hiding, of remaining in this cramped space, is beginning to erode the child's spirit. The mother sees it in their eyes, the longing, the confusion, the subtle weariness of someone too young to comprehend the cruelty of the world but keenly aware that something is wrong. She feels a deep sorrow at her inability to explain, to offer comfort in a way that could soothe the child's unease. Words, in this moment, are empty. All she can offer is her presence, her unwavering protection. The thought of discovery remains a constant undercurrent, threading through every moment of their lives. She never lets her guard down. Every time the child shifts, every time they speak too loudly, her heart skips a beat. The tension is suffocating, a constant weight on her chest, a reminder that they are always on the brink of disaster. The mother has come to see the house as a fragile fortress, one that could crumble at any moment. She has become adept at the small, quiet movements that allow her to maintain the illusion of normalcy. Yet, the constant vigilance, the ceaseless awareness of the dangers lurking just outside, takes its toll on her. She is always exhausted, her body worn from the strain of keeping watch, from the mental and emotional toll of living in a state of hyper-alertness. Then, one day, something unexpected happens, an encounter that will shift the entire trajectory of their lives. It begins with the sound of footsteps outside the house, not the usual ominous, military-clad march of enemy soldiers, but something different. The footsteps are slower, lighter, almost tentative. The mother's heart leaps into her throat, and for a moment, time seems to stretch. She grips the edge of the cupboard, her eyes flickering toward the small, hidden space where her child remains. Every instinct within her screams to stay still, to remain hidden, to not make a sound. But this time, there is something different about the footsteps. They are not the hurried, mechanical march of soldiers, but the steady, purposeful steps of someone who might be human. Her mind races as she listens. Could it be someone from the resistance? Someone who might help them? Or is it another patrol, another group of soldiers ready to root them out? The uncertainty gnaws at her, but she cannot afford to make a mistake. The child watches her, sensing the tension in the air but unable to understand the full weight of what is happening. The footsteps grow closer, and the mother presses herself against the wall, holding her breath. Her heart pounds in her ears. The door creaks, just a little, and her stomach twists with dread. She is sure now, whoever is outside is close, too close. The sound of movement stops, and there is a moment of terrifying silence. In that moment, the mother's mind flashes to images of soldiers kicking down the door, of being dragged out of her hiding place, of the child being taken away from her. But as quickly as the silence arrives, it is broken by a soft knock at the door. Just a single, gentle tap. A knock that seems so out of place in this world of war, a knock that seems almost polite. She hesitates, not daring to move, not daring to make a sound. The knock comes again, a little more insistent this time. The mother's mind races. Should she answer it? Should she remain silent and hope that whoever is outside will go away? She can feel the weight of the decision pressing down on her. Every instinct screams for her to stay hidden, to remain silent, to never acknowledge the world outside. But something in her gut tells her that this is different. Something in the tone of the knock, something in the stillness of the moment, suggests that this is not a threat. Her heart still races, her thoughts still whirl, but against her better judgment, she slowly moves toward the door. She hesitates one last time, her hand hovering above the doorknob, before she opens the door just a crack, just enough to peer outside. The figure standing on the other side of the door is not a soldier, not an enemy at all. Instead, it is a British soldier, a man in the uniform of the enemy, but one who does not seem to embody the same brutality that the mother has come to expect from those who wear the uniform. His face is tired, worn from the horrors of war, but his eyes hold something that she has not seen in so long: compassion. There is no threat in his gaze, no malice. In that moment, the mother feels a surge of confusion, a rush of conflicting emotions. This is not what she expected. This man, who should be her enemy, is standing before her offering something that she thought had long since disappeared: mercy. The British soldier speaks, though she cannot understand his words at first. His accent is thick, his voice low and steady. But the tone, the calmness in his voice, is not one of aggression or violence. He gestures toward the child, his face softening with what almost seems like a gentle understanding. The mother, unable to trust her own instincts, remains frozen. The soldier repeats himself, this time more slowly, his words cautious. He offers her a small, quiet smile, and there is something in that smile, something that she cannot fully understand, that begins to break through the wall of fear she has built around herself. For a moment, she wonders if this is some sort of trick, if the soldier is playing some kind of game, pretending to be merciful in order to draw them out. But there is no deception in his eyes, no hint of threat in his posture. This man, standing before her, is not like the others. He is not here to hurt her. The tension in the air remains thick, but it begins to dissipate ever so slightly. The soldier, sensing her hesitance, does not push forward. He does not demand anything. He simply waits. He waits for the mother to make a decision, to come to some kind of conclusion. The mother feels a wave of conflicting emotions, fear, confusion, hope, and in that moment, the protective walls she has built around herself begin to crumble. She does not know what will happen next. She does not know if she can trust the soldier, if his kindness is real or if it is simply a momentary lapse in the brutal realities of war. But there is something in the soldier's eyes, something that tells her that perhaps, just perhaps, there is more to this world than the hatred and violence that have consumed it. The mother does not know what the future holds. She does not know if this soldier will help them, if he will betray them, or if he will leave them to their fate. But in this moment, she allows herself to hope. She allows herself to believe that mercy might still exist, even in the darkest of times. The soldier, with all his humanity and compassion, has opened a door, perhaps not to safety, but to something greater, the possibility that even in a world torn apart by war, there are still moments of grace, still fragments of kindness that can shine through the darkness. And in that small moment of connection, the mother is reminded that survival is not just about hiding, not just about running. It is also about holding on to the flickering light of hope, no matter how small it might seem, and trusting that it might one day guide them out of the shadows. The days after the soldier's visit pass in a haze of disbelief and cautious optimism. For the first time since the war began, the mother feels a flicker of hope, a quiet possibility that survival might not solely hinge on hiding, on waiting in fear, but on the unexpected kindness of a stranger. The British soldier's actions, so gentle and unassuming, have cracked open the walls she had built around her heart. She had prepared herself for hatred, for violence, but never for mercy. His gesture, so simple and yet so profound, has shattered everything she thought she knew about the enemy. He didn't come with threats or demands. He came with nothing more than the quiet offer of safety, the silent suggestion that they might not all be lost. In the quiet moments that follow his departure, she reflects on the nature of war, on the strange duality it creates. She had seen soldiers, had been taught to fear them, to see them as faceless instruments of terror. But here was one, standing before her, a man who had known death, who had seen horrors far worse than she could ever imagine, yet still carried with him a sliver of humanity. It doesn't make sense to her. How can someone who is part of the force that has brought so much destruction also be capable of kindness? And yet, she cannot deny what she saw in his eyes. There had been no trickery, no false kindness. In that fleeting moment, he had shown her that mercy was not bound by borders, not by uniforms or alliances. And so, for the first time in months, the mother allows herself a fragile hope, a hope that this soldier's mercy could extend beyond just that brief encounter. The days that follow are filled with questions, with uncertainty. The mother knows that nothing about their situation has changed. They are still hidden, still isolated, still vulnerable to the dangers of the world outside. The soldier's visit, however comforting it might have been, does not change the fact that they are living in the shadow of war. She still cannot leave the safety of her hiding place. She still cannot expose the child to the world outside. The walls of fear, though momentarily softened by the soldier's actions, still close in on her. Every footstep she hears on the street, every distant sound of machinery, still sends her heart into overdrive. She cannot afford to forget that they are living in a world where discovery means death. But the seed of hope that has been planted in her mind refuses to wither. She cannot shake the image of the soldier's face, the way he looked at her and the child with a quiet understanding that she had never expected. He had seen her, not as an enemy, not as a casualty of war, but as a human being. He had recognized the fragile humanity that still existed within her, within all of them. And in that moment, something shifted. The mother, for the first time in what feels like forever, begins to question her assumptions about the world. She had been so convinced that survival in wartime was about cold calculation, about staying hidden and remaining invisible. But now, she wonders, could it be that survival is also about connection? About reaching out to those who, despite being on opposite sides, are still capable of understanding, of sharing a common humanity? The mother's thoughts swirl, tangled with doubt and uncertainty. She knows that she cannot afford to take risks. She cannot afford to be foolish. But still, she cannot help but wonder if the soldier's visit was more than just a fleeting moment of kindness. What if he could help them? What if he could get them out of here, away from the constant threat of discovery, away from the suffocating fear that has governed their lives for so long? She cannot ignore the possibility, no matter how small it seems. The soldier's mercy had been real, and it had been offered without expectation of reward, without any hint of manipulation. That, she thinks, is what makes it different. That is what makes her believe that perhaps, just perhaps, there is a way out of this nightmare. The more the mother considers this possibility, the more she becomes convinced that their survival is not just about hiding any longer. It's about taking a chance, about stepping outside of the cocoon of fear they have wrapped themselves in. She begins to weigh the options in her mind: stay hidden and continue to live in fear, or reach out and trust that the soldier's mercy was not just a momentary lapse in his duty, but a genuine offer of help. The decision does not come easily. It feels reckless, dangerous, even. But what is the alternative? To live in fear forever, never knowing whether each knock at the door will be the last? Or to take a leap of faith and trust that mercy exists, even in the darkest corners of the world? The thought of the soldier's face, his soft smile, lingers with her.